For months, we here at the Rachel Maddow Show have been driving friends and family members and even occasional strangers on the subway crazy with our passion about a topic that is vitally important to how our government works or doesn't. It's the filibuster problem, the political jujitsu move by which a minority of senators can block legislation they don't like. They're threatening to extend debate on it indefinitely until 60 cents. I recognize that it's not easy to hear about over and over again. I can't even make it exciting, even as excited about it as I am. And that's the problem, because we are smack in the middle of an unprecedented abuse of the filibuster, an abuse that has changed the way our government works in a radical way. Let's bring out the chart, okay? Since Republicans lost the Senate in 2006, there's been this huge spike in how often the filibuster is used. Now, for the first time in U.S. history, forcing these 60-vote supermajorities for routine Senate business. Are you still awake? Are you still awake? It's very important. Now that Senator Udall and Senators Tom Harkin and Senator Shaheen are sponsoring legislation to change Senate rules so that a tiny minority cannot thwart the will of the majority anymore, it's important to keep people interested in how important this is. To that end, we're trying some rebranding. We need to replace the admittedly soporific description of the filibuster problem with a name worthy of something so important. On Friday's show, we asked you to help us rename the filibuster problem, and here are some of the hundreds of ideas that have already flooded in. Pass interference, hung Senate, minority veto, minority rule, simple but effective, and how about this one, law jam. These are great. We've received a lot. We would like even more. Please go to rachel.msnbc.com. Click on the Filibuster Challenge. We're going to pool the ideas together and then pick a winner. If you win, you get relatively lame prizes that I hope you like anyway. It's a Rachel Maddow Show sweatshirt and a Rachel Maddow Show mug, both made in America. But who knows? You might be able to add to that swag a country with a future. Joining us now is Chris Hayes, Washington editor of The Nation, who is one of the few people to have successfully fought off the soporific urge to write passionately about the filibuster. Chris, nice to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you, Rachel. One of my Twitter followers said that if we really want to get the Republicans to join us in getting rid of the filibuster, we should rename it gay marriage, which I kind of like.
I once, the first time I ever played laser tag.
The first time,
hey, you want to talk laser tag? You know, you can put your name, you can program it into your little laser tag receiver thing so that people can, in your gun, so people can tell when you shoot them. I wanted to be as scary as possible. This was like 1996, so I made my name gay marriage and laser tag. Everybody just ran out of the maze.
Yeah, that's the way to intimidate.
All right, on the policy here, could Democrats get rid of the filibuster tomorrow if they really wanted to? Could they do it at any time?
The answer to that is a qualified yes. Okay. And the reason it's qualified is because it's never really been tested. So let's run through four possible ways to get rid of it, starting with the most difficult. So the most difficult will be changing Senate rules, right? So Senate Rule 22 is the cloture rule. That requires 67 votes to change Senate rules. So it's unlikely to get 67 votes. The next most difficult way would be statutorily, as Tom Harkin has suggested, to pass a bill that would change the rule. That would require 60 votes. Now, the two most interesting ways are, one, to start at the next, at the new Congress, right, after the elections this fall in January, to change the rules, or to do essentially what the Republicans threatened to do back in 2005, which is essentially the nuclear option. The nuclear option would allow them to essentially get rid of the filibuster tomorrow if Vice President and 51 senators were along with it.
Vice President and 50, right? Because he would make up the 50
exactly.
first.
I'm sorry, yes. Right.
So they just need a majority. Well, this I think is politically important because in 2005, the Republicans threatened to go nuclear, and Democrats were so freaked out by the prospect they gave them all sorts of concessions, and Bush got all his judges.
That's right.
So there has to be a credible belief. It's not that Republicans had 67 senators at that time.
No.
There has to be a credible belief on this one that they actually can do it. So when you say that it's a qualified yes that they can do it, are you saying that there's doubts about whether the nuclear option is constitutional?
Well, it's never been ruled on, and in fact, it's a sort of uncharted area of constitutional law. The Constitution gives to to the body of the Senate the ability to make its own rules. Now, that's interpreted. There's an 1892 decision called Ballin versus the United States in which that's interpreted as a majority of the Senate. And it's hard to see how you construe it otherwise. The other thing is that internal procedural rules of a body of Congress are technically called non-justiciable, right? Or the court is going to be very unlikely to enter into it. So the question is, if you made this ruling, right, the nuclear option is based on a senator raising a point of order in which he claims the filibuster is unconstitutional, and that ruling is endorsed by the chair and then voted on by a majority of participants. The point is that there is no other body to appeal to. Now, it's possible maybe the Supreme Court, in a totally unprecedented move, would insert itself. So the point is that this hasn't been ruled on. But I think the larger point, which you point out, is really important. There have been moments in which procedural changes have happened in the Senate. Happened after World War I. It happened after Watergate in the 1970s. And in every case, it wasn't a procedural change so much as a political change. There was a political recognition the body was broken and things had to change. And that's really the most important thing.
Chris Hayes, Washington editor of The Nation, thank you for your time tonight. I feel like the politics of this are one thing, but the actual details about how it would get done, there's so much confusion and misinformation out there about it that I expect to be called back to say this exact thing all over again very soon.
I would be happy, and if you ever want to play laser tag, just, let me know.
Watch out. Here comes gay marriage.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.